So on the first page of this worksheet, we're going to put the expected down here. So if we roll the dice 120 times, the number 1 should show up 20 times. And it turns out that's the same for all of these. Okay. Now, our observed should be close to 20, but it's probably not going to be exactly 20. So let's say I got 19, 24, 18, 19. So 1, 2, and then 21 and 19. Would you say that my dice is fair? It's pretty close. So how would I do the calculation? Well, I would need to do what? 19 minus 20 squared over 20. And then I need to do that for all the categories and add those together. And then how many degrees of freedom do I have? Well, we really only have 6 categories. This is not part of our sample. Right? That's just the expected value. So I have 6 categories, I subtract one of them, and I have 5 degrees of freedom. And then I look it up on the chi-square table. Any questions about that? 5. Okay. Now, if you turn the page, combine all of the sets of 120 rolls in the class into a single table. So once you finish that first page, you're going to come up and you're going to write how many you had in each category, and then we'll add them all together. And then we'll do a chi-squared test to see if everybody's dice was fair. Now, that's not really statistically sound because you all rolled a different dice, right? But we're just going to pretend. Okay? And then the last question says, the following table is totally made up. 625 people were surveyed regarding their favorite type of ice cream and whether they wished they were shorter than they were, or shorter than they were. Below are the results. Is height preference independent of ice cream preference? So let's put this up here. Okay, so we really only have this to worry about. I need to create, well, first off, is this a chi-squared test of independence or a chi-squared test to determine what's in the box? Independence. Okay, so I need to create observed values for each one of these numbers. How am I going to create that, expected values? How will I create that expected value? Well, I need to figure out how many people preferred chocolate. So I'm going to take 193 and divide that by the total of 625. And I get 30.8%, 0.9%. So if 129 people preferred to be taller than they were, 30.9% of those people should have chosen chocolate. So I'm going to do 129 and multiply that by 0.3088, and I get 40. Now I do the same thing for shorter. So there are 307 people in this category. I need to multiply that by 0.3088. So 307 times 0.3088. And I get 95 people. Now, I'm going to do that with all, how many categories do I have? 12? Going to do that with all 12 categories. And then I create a chi-squared number by doing this. 42 minus 40 squared over 40 plus 95 minus 95 squared over 95 plus, and I do that with all of them, that's going to give me a chi-squared number. How many degrees of freedom do I have? Well, we have to ignore the totals because they're really not part of the survey. And you have to get rid of one row and one column. So I'm going to delete one row and one column, and I count the categories, and I have 6. So my degrees of freedom are equal to 6. So I go to line 6 on that chi-squared table. No. So we started with 12, which is 4 times 3. So I subtract 1 from the 4 and I subtract 1 from the 3, and I get 3 times 2, which is 6. Yeah. So if you're doing a chi-squared test like the first one we did, then you just take the number of categories minus 1. If you're doing a test of independence, you delete a row and delete a column. And then you count what's left, and that's your degrees of freedom. So I'm going to put up a table. Once you have your numbers all figured out, come up and write your values up here, and then we'll add them together. Yeah. So one group is going to list how many ones they had, and another group, and another group, and another group, and then list how many 2s, and then just keep doing that. And then I'll just pause the video. When everybody has them up there, I'll start the video up again, and then we'll add them up and figure out how many there are. So here are the class results for each of those numbers, and there were 9 groups. So 9 times 20 is 180. So each one of these is going to be based off of an expected value of 180. And then you're going to run a chi-squared test with 5 degrees of freedom. What's that? Well, so 9 times 120 is the total number of rolls, and then you're going to divide it by 6. So each category is based off of 180. So we do 181 minus 180 squared over 180. All right, finish that up.